Hello there, and welcome back to Science for Sleep. Tonight we are going to explore something that has been quietly running inside you every single moment of your life. Something you have never had to think about. Something you have never had to remember to do. Something that existed inside your cells long before you were born, and will continue ticking long after you have drifted into sleep tonight. It is one of the oldest biological systems on Earth, older than memory, older than language, older, in fact, than most forms of life we can see with the naked eye. And yet, right now, at this very moment, it is shaping every aspect of how you feel, how alert you are, how warm your body is, which hormones are flowing through your blood, whether your cells are repairing themselves or preparing for the demands of tomorrow. It is your circadian rhythm. And once you begin to understand it, truly understand it, the way you think about sleep, about morning, about night, about your own body will never quite be the same. So settle in, let your body grow heavy, let your breathing find its own quiet pace, and let's explore together the ancient clock that has been keeping time inside you all along. Let's begin. Long before humans existed, before the first animals crawled from the sea, before even the earliest complex cells emerged on this planet, life had already solved one of its most fundamental problems: how to survive a rotating world. Earth has always rotated. From the very beginning of its existence, our planet has turned on its axis, exposing every surface to cycles of light and darkness that repeat with near-perfect regularity every 24 hours. This rhythm is not a modern phenomenon. It is as old as the planet itself, and life, wherever it appeared, had to adapt to it. The circadian rhythm is that adaptation, a biological time-keeping system so ancient and so fundamental that it exists in virtually every living thing on Earth. From single-celled cyanobacteria that have existed for over 3 billion years, to the cells of the human brain. From the leaves of plants that open toward morning light, to the liver cells that adjust their chemistry in anticipation of a meal. From the immune cells that ramp up their activity during sleep, to the neurons that are firing quietly behind your closed eyes right now. The word circadian comes from the Latin circa, meaning around, dies, meaning day. Around the day, a rhythm that repeats approximately every 24 hours, driven not by external cues alone, but by an internal clock that keeps time even in complete isolation. This is what makes the circadian rhythm so extraordinary. It is not simply a response to light and darkness. It is a genuine internal clock, a biological mechanism capable of measuring the passage of time independently of the outside world. In a famous experiment conducted in the 1960s, French geologist Michel Siffre descended alone into a cave in the Alps and lived there for 2 months, with no access to natural light, no clocks, no calendars. He ate when he was hungry. He slept when he was tired. He had no way of knowing what time it was on the surface. When he emerged, he believed he had been underground for 34 days. He had actually been there for 61. But despite his miscalculation of the total duration, his body had continued cycling, sleeping and waking, resting and active, following a rhythm remarkably close to 24 hours, day after day, deep in total darkness, guided by nothing except its own internal clock. The circadian rhythm does not need the sun. The sun simply sets it. For decades, scientists knew that circadian rhythms existed. They could observe them in plants, in animals, in humans. They could measure their effects. But the question of where exactly the clock lived, which part of the brain or body kept this ancient time, remained unanswered. The answer arrived in the 1970s, and it pointed to one of the smallest, most precisely located structures in the entire human brain. Deep inside the hypothalamus, a region of the brain involved in regulating temperature, hunger, and hormones, sits a tiny cluster of approximately 20,000 neurons. It is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN, and it is your master clock. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is no larger than a grain of rice. It accounts for a vanishingly small fraction of the brain's total volume, and yet it coordinates the timing of virtually every biological process in your body, synchronizing cells across every organ, every tissue, every system to a unified 24-hour rhythm. The SCN receives direct input from specialized cells in your retinas, not the rod and cone cells responsible for vision, but a third type of photoreceptor discovered relatively recently, containing a pigment called melanopsin. These cells are particularly sensitive to blue wavelengths of light, the wavelengths most abundant in natural daylight. When they detect light, they send signals directly to the SCN, resetting the master clock to the current time of day. This is why light is the most powerful regulator of your circadian rhythm. It is not simply that light wakes you up. Light physically resets the clock in your brain, aligning your internal timing with the external world. But the master clock is only the beginning, because it does not keep time alone. Every cell in your body contains its own molecular clock, a set of genes and proteins that cycle through a roughly 24-hour loop of activity and rest, independent of any signal from the brain. Your liver cells keep time, your lung cells keep time, your skin cells keep time, your immune cells keep time. The master clock in the SCN coordinates all of these peripheral clocks, synchronizing them so they work in concert rather than in chaos. It sends hormonal signals, neural signals, and temperature signals throughout the body, keeping the entire biological orchestra playing in time. When the master clock and the peripheral clocks fall out of synchrony, as happens during jet lag, shift work, or chronic sleep disruption, the consequences reach into almost every system of the body. The coordination that makes health possible quietly begins to unravel. Inside every cell in your body, including the neurons of the SCN, a set of genes and proteins are cycling through a remarkable loop. A feedback mechanism so elegant it earned its discoverers the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2017. Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young spent decades studying the molecular mechanisms of circadian clocks in fruit flies before their work was recognized with the highest honor in science. What they discovered changed our understanding of what a clock actually is at the most fundamental level. The basic mechanism works like this. Certain genes, called clock genes, are expressed during specific phases of the cycle. When they are expressed, they produce proteins. Those proteins accumulate inside the cell until they reach a threshold at which they begin to suppress the very genes that produce them. As the proteins are gradually broken down, their inhibitory effect decreases and the clock genes become active again. The cycle repeats approximately every 24 hours. The primary proteins involved have names that sound more like characters in a story than molecules in a cell. Clock and BMAL1 work together to activate the system. PER and CRY work to inhibit it. Together, they form an interlocking loop of activation and suppression that generates time from chemistry. What is remarkable is not just that this mechanism exists, it is how conserved it is across species. The clock genes in fruit flies are recognizably similar to the clock genes in humans. The same basic molecular architecture that keeps time in an insect's cells keeps time in yours. This mechanism has been maintained, refined, and preserved across hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Evolution does not preserve things that do not matter. The fact that this molecular timekeeping system has survived unchanged across such an extraordinary span of evolutionary time speaks to how fundamental it is to life itself. Your circadian rhythm does not simply tell you when to sleep and when to wake. It orchestrates the timing of virtually every biological process in your body, choreographing a symphony of physical changes that unfold across the full 24 hours of each day. In the hours before dawn, while you are still deeply asleep, your body is already preparing for morning. Core body temperature, which dropped to its lowest point in the early hours of sleep, begins to rise. The adrenal glands begin releasing cortisol in increasing amounts, preparing your cardiovascular system, your immune system, and your metabolism for the demands of waking life. Your blood pressure begins to climb. Your heart rate begins to increase. You do not experience this preparation. You are asleep. But your body has already begun the work of waking you up, hours before your eyes open. In the morning hours following sunrise, alertness climbs sharply. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, activated by the light signals arriving from the retina, suppresses melatonin production and increases the signals that promote wakefulness. Cortisol peaks shortly after waking in what is called the cortisol awakening response, a surge of the hormone that primes the brain for learning, memory, and focused attention. This is why many people find their cognitive performance sharpest in the late morning hours. The brain is receiving maximum biological support for focused thinking at this time. Through the middle of the day, body temperature reaches its daily peak. Reaction times are fastest. Muscle strength and coordination reach their highest points. The cardiovascular system is operating at its most efficient. This is when the body is most prepared for physical performance. In the early afternoon, many people experience a natural dip in alertness, a brief trough in the circadian alerting signal that has nothing to do with how well they slept the night before. This is the biological basis for the midday nap, practiced in cultures around the world, long before anyone understood its circadian origins. As afternoon deepens into evening, the body begins its gradual preparation for night. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, responding to the diminishing light of evening, begins signaling the pineal gland to start producing melatonin. Core body temperature begins its slow descent. The processes of digestion and immune activity that are most active during the day begin to quiet. By the time darkness falls, melatonin levels are rising significantly. The biological drive for sleep is building. Body temperature continues to fall. The brain's alerting systems are stepping back. The ancient signal that has guided every human being into sleep since the beginning of our species is doing its quiet work. And in the hours of deep night, as sleep reaches its deepest stages, the body performs its most intensive maintenance. Growth hormone flows through the bloodstream in its highest concentrations. The glymphatic system flushes the brain of accumulated waste. Cells throughout the body repair and regenerate. The immune system conducts its most active surveillance. The sleeping body is not resting. It is working harder than it does at almost any other time. Of all the signals that influence the circadian rhythm, None is more powerful than light. Light is the primary Zeitgeber, a German word meaning time giver, of the circadian system. It is the external signal that synchronizes your internal clock to the 24-hour cycle of the rotating Earth, keeping the biological machinery of your body aligned with the world outside. The mechanism is precise and elegant. The specialized photoreceptors in your retinas detect light and send signals directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Depending on when these signals arrive relative to the current phase of the internal clock, they either advance the clock, delay it, or have no effect. This is called the phase response curve, and it explains why light at different times of day has different effects on your circadian timing. Bright light in the morning, when the sun is rising, advances the clock. It confirms to the SCN that morning has arrived and synchronizes the internal cycle to align with the external one. Morning light is one of the most powerful tools available for anchoring a healthy circadian rhythm. Light in the evening, particularly after sunset, delays the clock. It tells the SCN that the day has not yet ended, pushing back the timing of melatonin release and delaying the onset of sleepiness. This is the biological mechanism behind the well-documented effects of artificial light at night on sleep quality. The spectral composition of light matters as much as its intensity. Blue wavelengths, between approximately 460 and 480 nanometers, are the most potent activators of the melanopsin photoreceptors that drive circadian resetting. Natural daylight is rich in blue wavelengths, particularly in the morning. The light emitted by electronic screens is also disproportionately blue. This is why the screens we carry into the bedroom with us have such a measurable effect on sleep onset. They are not merely bright, they are delivering precisely the wavelength of light that the circadian system uses as its primary signal that morning has arrived. Darkness, conversely, is the signal that night has begun. In the absence of light, the inhibition of melatonin production is released, and the pineal gland begins its nightly synthesis of the hormone. Darkness is not merely the absence of light. For the circadian system, it is a positive signal, an active cue that carries biological meaning. For most of human history, darkness arrived reliably at sunset and persisted until dawn. The circadian system evolved in this context, calibrated to a world in which darkness was real, consistent, and unavoidable. The electric light changed this fundamental relationship between humans and the night, compressing natural darkness and exposing the circadian system to cues it was never designed to receive at the times it receives them now. Your core body temperature is both regulated by the circadian rhythm and feeds back into it, creating one of the most precisely choreographed thermal cycles in nature. Core body temperature follows a reliable 24-hour pattern. It is lowest in the early hours of the morning, typically around 4 to 5 a.m., reaching its nadir at approximately 36.2 degrees Celsius. It then rises steadily through the morning and afternoon, reaching its daily peak of approximately 37.0 degrees Celsius in the late afternoon and early evening. From there, it begins its descent back toward the nighttime minimum. This thermal cycle serves multiple purposes. The drop in core temperature in the evening is one of the primary physiological signals that initiates sleepiness. As the body sheds heat to the environment, the brain interprets this cooling as a signal that night is approaching and sleep is appropriate. The faster the body cools, the faster sleep onset tends to occur. This is why a warm bath or shower before bed actually facilitates sleep rather than hindering it. The bath raises skin temperature, which causes blood vessels near the surface to dilate, accelerating the loss of heat from the body's core. When you emerge from the bath, your core temperature drops more rapidly than it otherwise would, sending a stronger sleep onset signal to the brain. The body sheds heat primarily through the extremities. The hands and feet are rich in blood vessels near the surface, and they function as the body's primary radiators. The dilation of these vessels during the evening hours allows heat to escape from the core, driving the temperature decline that facilitates sleep onset. Cold feet are a common complaint among people who struggle to fall asleep, and the connection is direct. When the peripheral blood vessels are constricted, heat cannot escape the core efficiently. The body temperature decline is slowed, and the sleep onset signal is weaker. Wearing socks to bed, which seems counterintuitive, can actually accelerate sleep onset in some people by warming the extremities and causing the vessels to dilate, allowing the core to cool more rapidly. The bedroom temperature also matters. Because core body temperature must fall to initiate and maintain sleep, a room that is too warm creates resistance against this necessary cooling. Sleep scientists consistently recommend bedroom temperatures between 16 and 19 degrees Celsius as optimal for most adults, cool enough to support the body's natural thermal descent into sleep without becoming so cold that it causes discomfort. No molecule is more closely associated with the circadian rhythm and sleep than melatonin, and no molecule is more widely misunderstood. Melatonin is produced by the pineal gland, a small endocrine structure tucked deep in the center of the brain. The ancient philosopher Descartes believed the pineal gland was the seat of the soul. Modern neuroscience has revealed a more prosaic, but no less remarkable role. It is the body's primary timekeeper signal, the chemical messenger through which the brain broadcasts the information that night has arrived. The production of melatonin is controlled directly by the suprachiasmatic nucleus through a pathway that runs from the SCN to the pineal gland via the spinal cord. When light levels fall and the SCN detects the diminishing day, it releases the inhibition on melatonin production, and the pineal gland begins synthesizing the hormone. Melatonin levels rise gradually through the evening, typically beginning their ascent about 2 hours before habitual sleep time. They peak in the middle of the night, between 2 and 4 a.m. for most people, and then decline toward morning as the SCN, detecting the approach of dawn, begins suppressing production again. It is critical to understand what melatonin does and does not do. Melatonin is not a sleep switch. It does not cause unconsciousness. It does not produce the sedation associated with sleeping pills or other sleep medications. Its role is more subtle and more precise. It signals to every cell in the body that night has arrived. It is a temporal cue, a biological timestamp that tells the body when to begin its preparation for sleep. This is why supplemental melatonin is most effective not as a sleep inducer, but as a circadian shifting agent. Small doses taken at specific times can advance or delay the phase of the circadian clock, making it useful for jet lag, shift work, and delayed sleep phase syndrome. But the sedative effect many people associate with melatonin supplements is largely placebo. The hormone itself, at the doses produced naturally by the body, does not cause drowsiness in the way that most people believe. Melatonin is acutely sensitive to light exposure. Even relatively dim artificial light can suppress melatonin production in the evening, delaying the circadian signal that night has arrived. Studies have found that exposure to ordinary room light in the 2 hours before bed suppresses melatonin by approximately 50% in healthy adults. Blue-enriched light from screens suppresses it even more dramatically. The consequences of this suppression extend beyond difficulty falling asleep. Melatonin has been shown to have antioxidant properties and to play a role in immune function, cellular repair, and possibly in the prevention of certain diseases. Its relationship to health extends well beyond its role as a sleep signal, and the chronic disruption of its natural rhythm by artificial light at night is one of the less discussed costs of modern life. Your circadian rhythm is biological, but it does not operate in isolation from the social world. The times at which society demands your presence, the school that starts at 7 a.m., the office that opens at 9, the night shift that runs from midnight to 8, interact with your internal clock in ways that have profound consequences for health, performance, and well-being. The concept of chronotype describes the natural timing preference of an individual's circadian rhythm. Early chronotypes, the morning larks, have internal clocks that run slightly ahead of the social average. They feel naturally alert and energetic in the early morning hours and become genuinely sleepy in the early evening. Late chronotypes, the night owls, have internal clocks that run slightly behind the social average. They feel most alert in the late evening and struggle to achieve full alertness in the early morning hours, regardless of how early they wake. Most people fall somewhere between these extremes, with a roughly normal distribution of chronotypes across the population. But the range is wider than is commonly recognized. The most extreme early chronotypes feel naturally sleepy by 8 p.m. and wake spontaneously before dawn. The most extreme late chronotypes feel peak alertness at 2 or 3 a.m. and find genuine early morning function almost biologically impossible. Chronotype is not a character flaw. It is not laziness, nor is it a choice. It is a biological characteristic with a strong genetic basis, shaped by dozens of identified genetic variants that influence the molecular clock mechanism in individual cells. The genes that determine your chronotype are largely the same genes that were discovered in fruit flies. Your preference for morning or evening is written in your DNA. Age also shapes chronotype in a pattern that is remarkably consistent across cultures and populations. Children tend to be early chronotypes. As puberty begins, the circadian clock shifts toward later timing, a biological change that pushes adolescence toward later sleep and later waking. This shift peaks in the late teens and early 20s, then gradually reverses through adulthood. By older age, most people have shifted back toward earlier chronotypes. This means that the early school start times required of teenagers in many countries are biologically misaligned with the circadian timing of the students they serve. The teenager who cannot wake for a 7 a.m. school start is not lazy. They are experiencing a genuine biological mismatch between the demands of the social clock and the timing of their own internal one. Social jet lag is the term scientists use to describe the chronic misalignment between a person's biological clock and the schedule they are required to keep. Most people experience some degree of social jet lag, sleeping later on weekends than weekdays as their body clock reasserts itself when social obligations are removed. For late chronotypes living in societies built around early schedules, this misalignment can be chronic and significant, with measurable effects on health, mood, and cognitive performance. The circadian rhythm is robust. It has been maintained by evolution for billions of years because life that could not keep time reliably did not survive. But robust does not mean invulnerable. The modern world presents the circadian system with challenges it was never designed to face. Artificial light that extends the perceived day into the night. Travel that moves the body across time zones faster than the clock can follow. Work schedules that demand activity during the biological night and sleep during the biological day. Screen use in the hours before bed. Irregular sleep and meal timing that sends contradictory signals to the master clock and the peripheral clocks throughout the body. The consequences of circadian disruption extend far beyond tiredness. Shift workers, whose schedules regularly require wakefulness during the biological night, show significantly elevated rates of cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers compared to day workers. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classified overnight shift work as a probable human carcinogen in 2007, based on evidence that chronic circadian disruption promotes tumor growth in animal models and is associated with elevated cancer rates in human populations. The immune system is deeply circadian. The timing of immune cell activity, cytokine production, and inflammatory responses are all regulated by the clock. Disrupting the circadian rhythm impairs immune function, reducing the effectiveness of vaccines administered at the wrong circadian phase and increasing susceptibility to infection. Metabolic health is closely tied to circadian timing. The liver, pancreas, and gut all maintain peripheral clocks that regulate the timing of digestive enzyme production, insulin secretion, and metabolic hormone release. These peripheral clocks are synchronized not only by the master clock, but also by meal timing. Eating at times misaligned with the biological day, late at night when the metabolic clock is in its rest phase, impairs glucose metabolism and increases the risk of weight gain and metabolic disease, even when total caloric intake is unchanged. Mental health is also circadian. Depression and bipolar disorder are both associated with disruptions in circadian rhythm. Seasonal affective disorder is essentially a circadian disorder, driven by the changes in light exposure across the year that alter the timing and amplitude of the biological clock. Sleep disruptions, which are among the earliest and most consistent symptoms of most psychiatric disorders, are in many cases reflections of underlying circadian dysregulation. The brain itself changes with circadian disruption. Studies of shift workers and people with chronic social jet lag show measurable differences in the structure and function of brain regions involved in cognition, emotional regulation, and memory. The circadian rhythm is not peripheral to brain health. It is central to it. And yet, for all the ways in which modern life challenges the circadian system, the clock's resilience is extraordinary. It wants to align. It is constantly seeking synchrony with the external world, integrating signals from light, temperature, social interaction, meal timing, and exercise to anchor its timing to the 24-hour cycle of the planet. Given the right cues at the right times, the circadian system will find its rhythm. Morning light is the single most powerful tool for anchoring and strengthening the circadian rhythm. Exposure to bright, natural light in the first hour after waking sends the strongest possible resetting signal to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, locking the master clock to the correct phase and setting the timing of all downstream processes. Even on cloudy days, outdoor light in the morning is significantly brighter than indoor lighting and has meaningful effects on circadian timing. Consistency of sleep and wake times is perhaps the most fundamental circadian practice. The circadian clock anchors itself to regular timing cues. When sleep and wake times are consistent, the clock's predictions about when to prepare for sleep and when to prepare for waking become accurate, making both transitions smoother and more complete. When times vary significantly from day to day, the clock's predictions are perpetually off and the transitions are rougher. Meal timing influences the peripheral clocks throughout the body. Eating in alignment with the biological day, concentrating caloric intake in the daylight hours, and finishing eating well before sleep supports the synchrony between the master clock and the peripheral clocks. Avoiding food in the 2 to 3 hours before bed reduces the signals that keep the metabolic clock in its active phase when the master clock is signaling rest. Exercise advances the circadian clock when performed in the morning and early afternoon, and may delay it when performed late in the evening. For most people, morning or afternoon exercise supports circadian timing more effectively than evening exercise, which can delay sleep onset if performed too close to bedtime. Temperature, as we have seen, is both a product of and an input to the circadian system. Keeping the sleep environment cool and allowing the body's natural evening temperature decline to proceed without resistance from an overheated bedroom or heavy bedding supports the circadian transition into sleep. And perhaps the most fundamental of all circadian practices is the simplest: respecting darkness. The circadian system evolved in a world where darkness was real and complete after sunset. Allowing the evenings to be genuinely dimmer, stepping away from screens and bright overhead lighting as the night deepens, is not merely a sleep hygiene practice. It is an act of biological alignment, a gesture of respect toward one of the oldest and most essential systems in your body and in every living thing on Earth. That was the story of your circadian rhythm, a clock as old as life itself, running in every cell of your body, ticking through the night while you sleep, preparing you for morning while you dream. Right now, as these words fade, as the room grows quieter around you, as the weight of the day finally settles somewhere you no longer need to carry it, your circadian rhythm is doing what it has always done. It is keeping time. It is lowering your temperature. It is rising your melatonin. It is preparing your brain for the deep, restorative work of sleep. It is doing this not because you asked it to, not because you remembered, but because it has been doing this your entire life. Because it was doing this before you were born, and will do it again tonight, and every night that follows. You do not have to understand it for it to work. You only have to let it. So let your breathing slow. Let your body grow heavy and still. Let the ancient clock inside you do what it was made to do. It knows the way. It has always known the way. Sleep well. Science for Sleep will be here when you return.